man. What's not to like about it, man? I don't know how more people don't know about this, man. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it was.
Mm, I don't know either. As I guess I've hit as many platforms as I possibly could within the people that want to do it, but it's hard because a lot of people get tired of hearing the same old story, and it's also not fun to cover a fighter who doesn't have a fight either lined up. So that's probably what it is too.
But still, it's an amazing story. Like we'll go into it more, but like the fact that you've one eye and like that you're fighting professionally and like you're not just there taking part, you're winning. Like you don't have a losing record. You're not like 0-0, or you're not in the like. I just thought because I was brought to my attention by the other guys you talked to in Ireland. They shouted you out, and then I went, okay, who is this guy? And then I went and looked, and I was absolutely amazed. And then straight away I said, man, I'm doing a little highlight video for that lad. He deserved that. Story's just amazing, man.
Yeah,
I
I
couldn't find all the
appreciate it.
footage. No
Now
problem.
some
It was
of
my
it's
pleasure.
yeah. Some of it's hidden. Like you had to buy the pay-per-view. They have some film. I just didn't have a chance to ask for it. I just pulled what I had from my phone. So, but I have most of them. I try not to watch them too much. Start obsessing over it.
Did you watch yourself much after the fights to kind of correct what you might feel you done wrong, or do you know from the fight? You just know from the feel of the fight.
I usually ask my coach what I did wrong and if I need to fix, and he's actually really good about fixing it right on the spot and like, hey, this is what you did. This you should have did this and this, and so we go on from there. It's really that's all it is. Like I'll watch film maybe for a little bit and I'm like, okay, I have an idea what to work on, but he's really the one that like, this is what you have to do. This is how you get better at doing this. So
Yeah, because I was at my first event last night. You probably seen on my Instagram and stuff like that.
mhm.
And I was as I was taking the photos and stuff, I was in the corner. This is something I want to ask you because I won't be speaking to anyone else until a later time. When I was there, I was sitting beside the coaches, and they can see everything, and they were like, "Do this, do that," and I was just amazed. Obviously they have the knowledge. I was looking at it going, obviously we were in a like behind closed doors, so there was no fans, no anything, so the fighters could hear clearly. When you're in a fight with a crowd, does that come true? Can you still hear that? Does the crowd like sound out, if you get me, and you can just hear your coaches, or is it harder to hear them shouting the instructions?
I can hear my coaches because my coach has a very distinguished voice where everybody can hear it. So it's more like a trained ear type thing. There's going to be crowds, and there's always going to be a crowd there. Crowd really doesn't affect the hearing so much as if you can hear them if you're fighting. Yeah, it's usually my coach. He says it. He talks loudly. He knows how to project his voice, and from fighting many times at the UFC, and Bellator fights like he has and cornered all those guys there. Vince and Taylor and Jason. He knows how to put his voice out there to where it can be heard over everybody. So it's a really great thing to have that out there.
Yeah, no, your coach, because I'd watched a lot of footage on you and your coach, and he's saying like before you even get to a fight, you're in fights with commissions trying to get things. Like, how do you get cleared? How do you get cleared?
It's a bunch of papers, and for me, I actually had to like almost do like a tryout, probably about a few years ago, and they were like, because the commission said it was scientifically impossible, and the other doctors and stuff was like, yeah, same thing. It's like, yeah, it's scientifically impossible. You can't do it. And then I was like, okay. So we found a eye specialist that runs fight doctors. They run Revolution's gym in South Carolina, and they're really good friends with my coach. So he was like, hey, could you help us out real quick? We have a fighter here that needs your help. And he was like, yeah, just bring him by. They brought me by, and then I trained with Jared Scoggins at one point. Met his brother. Trained with a few other guys, Kenny Porter. We all got to mix it up a little bit, and it was like, okay, this dude can scrap, and we're gonna put our name on him, and that was the rest of it. And I've not had any problems since.
So you beat science, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Fuck science. I
Yeah.
hated science. No, congratulations. Like, it is an amazing story. I think Ike has some questions to ask you as well. If Ike, you want to work away on whatever
Uh,
questions you have there.
yeah. Listen. First of all, credit to David because he knows a lot more about you and a lot more about the fight game than me myself. I have really only just recently become a fight fan, so there's still a lot I have to learn about the sport. Um, but what I find extraordinary about your own story is that you have you have one eye. I mean, basically, and what's even more interesting about it is that the accident happened to you. I was just listening to a video on YouTube. I think it was reported by, is it the NBA or NBC News in the US? They did like a short documentary on your situation that sometime in 2009, you were just 17 and you were involved in an accident. And that's as a result of the accident, you lost your left eye. Um, but I mean, my first question to you really will be, how did you still, manage to get into fighting? Because for many people, for having such a disability, many would be told for something like fighting or any sort of physical activity, it would be virtually impossible for you to, get involved in that.
Well, I started off playing football, and I had scholarships and places to go to play football. And after the wreck happened, I, went off the deep end, didn't want to do nothing with myself. And my family at the time was like, you need to get out and do something. They just pushed me every single day. It's like, you can't sit here and feel sorry for yourself. I just looked up, watched TV, and, UFC was on. And I was like, I would like to try that. And I looked up places to do it, and I've been at the gym I'm at now ever since. And I had no intention on fighting. Like, I was just like, I want to do this just to get myself feel better because, I didn't think anybody would want I could fight, let alone just, be normal. It's one of those things where people look at you weird and you have to like hide your face and stuff like that. So never thought about fighting. And I guess fighting was something that I needed to do because it showed me that I can still go out here and I can still live my life and still do things that other people can do. So in the beginning, I never intended on fighting. I was like, nah, I just want to train. I just want to learn how to do this stuff. And then that'd be it.
I mean, no, that's fantastic. I mean, you were never told anything like any of the fight promoters that you started with that you were fighting, or that you got your foot in the door with at the time when you started your career. None of them told you, such as nobody would like to see you fight. You're not marketable enough. You don't look a certain way. Because I've noticed, and I've heard this in other areas, other sources, that if a fighter may fight well in the cage, but if they don't look attractive, if they don't look a certain way, if they don't have a certain demeanor, then fight fans will not be compelled to tune into or pay that pay-per-view, to watch you fight, basically. And when I hear that, I do get quite disheartened, very, very disheartened, because I'll tell you that I myself, I've been really called a lot before in the past because of my appearance. But I've heard it's quite disheartening when you hear that that someone can be really good at what they're doing, what they're supposed to do, fighting in this case for mixed martial arts, but just because they don't tickle the other boxes, which really shouldn't matter that much at all, it will prohibit them from succeeding in the sport of mixed martial arts.
Yeah. Yeah. The marketing does suck, especially with the whole, there's a lot of what ifs with me, especially having one eye. Like, if he does fight, what happens if he gets popped in the eye and blah, blah, blah. And how many people really going to watch this, this sideshow? Because that's really ultimately what it is. It's a sideshow. It's like, I got one eye's going to fight this other guy in a cage. It sounds like some kind of circus act. I mean, they always will say no one's marketable. And you're right. It shouldn't rely on your looks, and it should rely on, your pedigree. It should just require your skills and how good a fighter you are. But we live in this time now where validation is very important for everybody. You have to look a certain way. You got to talk a certain way. You have to dress a certain way. You have to have these things. And you could be as phony as a fighter as possible. As long as you put butts in the seats, they don't really care.
Yeah.
It is what it is. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Coach always says that. If it was easy, everybody would do it. So, everybody has an excuse. Everybody has their wines and stuff like that. I mean, the only thing they can do is tell me no over and over again. But for example, Tennessee told me no for 3 years straight. Like, no, no, no. And then here I am, the number one bantamweight in Tennessee. So it's one of those things. It's like, I don't care what you have to say. At this point, you have to be stubborn. You have to be hard-headed. You have to kick those doors down. And you can't take no for an answer. You cannot take no for an answer. It's just how it goes. I'm not Conor McGregor. I can't really, put myself out there. One, because I have a wife and kids, and I ain't about to embarrass them like that. So I have to do something else to put myself out there. And fighting and stirring the pot with everybody is what I'm doing.
No, you make a very good point there. Very, very good point. David.
Would you, I
ask him?
Yeah, I can go ahead. No. I actually thought, for me as a promoter, you're saying it's a sideshow. For me, people treat it as side. I wouldn't treat it as a sideshow because, for someone to do that, that's incredible. So I would have thought you would have been on the side of being more marketable because like I said, you don't have a losing record. You're out there, you're beating guys. Like, there's guys with, like, they're fully functional, their eyes, everything's perfect, and they're on losing records. You're on a winning record. So I would have thought that'd be more promotable than anything else.
No, you're right. You're right. It should be. And it is. And it's just it's not necessarily more of a thing for me. It's more so of my team that's around me. We help each other get better. We push each other to get better. So I would not be winning fights and I wouldn't have a winning record if it wasn't for the teammates I have at KMA. So that works in more favor than anything. And it should be marketable. It should be. But the problem is that people don't want to. Because if I go to someone's hometown and like, hey, he's fighting this one I got, what happens if I beat the guy? You know what I'm saying? What happens when I beat your champion? What happens then? Because then, all that validation is like there. You have to push me there. And just some people are just not ready to evolve to that. Besides the looks, you have to, like I said earlier, you have to have a certain look. And I don't have that look. I literally have a one eye and I'm winning fights and, my style is not pretty by no means. It's chaotic as all get out, but I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know why it's not marketable. I try pushing for it. I've been commenting on a lot of things and liking different promotions and stuff like that. So it's not like they don't know I exist. They just don't want to acknowledge that I exist.
Do you think it could be a case, like you just said there, that if their champion loses to you, that then their champion might be embarrassed? And I don't mean this in a bad way, but their champion might be embarrassed to lose in somewhat with one eye. Is that what you think it could be?
I know that's what it could be. Because you got to think about it. Like, you built up this guy from the ground up. You fed him fighters. You got somebody in here who with a good record. You're like, all right, we got this guy here. He sells a lot of tickets for us. And let's see if we can make this guy be like, have some like wow pop to him. And then there comes me, pops up in there. And then next thing you know, I'm beating your guy and I'm winning the fight. And I'm like, dang, we just built our dude up. But now we have to promote this dude who was nowhere near our hometown. And, we brought him in to lose. And, it's a lot of stuff like that. In my mind, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so actually that's what I wanted to ask you. You're saying like in the region. So in Ireland here, there's only really one there's 4 promotions, right? But the difference, there's the north and south of Ireland. So there's 3 in the north and there's 1 down south. But that will go from place to place. So it doesn't stay in the one place. In America, obviously, because it's so vast, you have like just a promotion that's stuck in one area, kind of like the old wrestling promotions, something like that. Is that the way it is? That it's all, they don't move really from their towns or their cities? Or
yeah. Some do, some move. I know Valor, it stays in Knoxville, but it doesn't move. It was moved from Chattanooga to other places. Very rarely around here do they just stick in one spot. They usually move within, driving distance. So that's a lot of money to put on a show. So they don't want to be in the hole because they traveled, all the way across town or something like that. So yeah, they usually are moving, but they don't stay far though. They did not stay far.
Okay, no, you can see that. And would at the minute is there in Ireland? I've noticed there's a big explosion right now. The talent, the amateurs, and all is very good. Like, and there's a lot. Would there be a lot of promotions in America? Like, would there be one nearly in every town you go to or every set? Like, is it quite vast or is it still quite niche in America?
It's pretty vast. Like I think each state has at least a dozen of them, if that. I know there's in every part of each state they have a promotion somewhere, and sometimes they do head-to-head shows. Sometimes they just stay themselves, but there's a lot. I know in Tennessee alone, there's probably about 4 or 5 that I think of. Georgia, I think there's like 2 or 3, and South Carolina is like 2 or 3. So yeah, there are a lot everywhere. It's just you have to know the right people and you have to put them out there and stuff like that.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's the name of the game.
Yeah,
the name of the game.
that is networking, getting out there, getting in. Do the ones in the same, like you were saying in Texas, what do they cross promote and have like maybe champion versus champion, or is that something they wouldn't want to do either because then one guy's champion beat another guy's champion?
Yeah, I've yet to see that. They did it years ago here. We had a Tennessee versus Kentucky one, but I don't think it was a belt fight. But they did Border Wars, and that lasted all of 2 shows. So and then COVID hit over here, and it shut everything down. So no, they really don't try to travel. They try to keep everybody in state. And if they do fly someone, they're gonna fly someone from out of town to come in for their hometown dude. So that's about as close as you get to that.
Okay, and how are the restrictions now in America with COVID? Because in Ireland, we seem to be coming out of it, but our cases are rising again. Is there much restrictions where you are at the minute?
Not really, not in Tennessee. There's some states that make you wear a mask and stuff like that. Tennessee is one of the states. It's like you don't have to wear a mask. You know, it's one of those things where states just they have their own say so. It's like if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. If I'm not, I'm not. So for the most part, it's pretty open over here. It's like pretty much wide open over here. You can do pretty much whatever you want to do. There's no more 6 feet distances. There's hardly any mask mandates, and our numbers are climbing up. But other than that, but you can only believe only so much of that around here because, politics.
Yeah, it's the same here. Someone was in the hospital and someone died, and the doctor said, was it COVID? So the numbers there, I think they're picking and choosing to scaremonger people. I'm not going to go too much into that because that's a whole another
yeah,
topic.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, that's a whole another thing, and I don't want to get start being called out over an interview. But no, I've watched some of your fights. They're really exciting. That's why I actually had so much footage. For me, for Instagram, I only try to do the 1 minute reel because copyright for songs and stuff. You can only do the videos to the reels. Man, I had so much footage, and with such few fights. And I actually noticed, which was quite interesting, in one of your fights, you're wearing UFC shorts.
Mm-hmm.
What was the reason behind that? Was that like you envisioning, or?
Yeah, it was part of envision, but it's more like my coach. He was like, everybody's, at that point we were all like, hey, we want to make it to UFC. And then, Vince, he fights in the UFC, and they came back with a bunch of like shorts and stuff for everybody. And was like, here, this is what it feels like to wear UFC shorts. This is what this is how it looks on you, blah, blah, blah. Try to put the visualization together, try to put yourself in that moment. So like wearing those shorts is like very near and dear to me. I don't have them anymore, which is very unfortunate, but those are like by far my favorite shorts.
No, because I thought it was pretty cool when I was watching it. Because I'd seen when I looked your you're actually your shirt of your typology is actually the picture you in the shorts, and I was like, he's not in the UFC, is he?
No.
But then I went, and obviously when I researched more, I seen you wore them to a fight. So obviously you don't have any fights planned. Are you trying to work on getting fights? Like you said, it's obviously hard for you to get a fight. Are you actively trying at the minute?
I am. My coaches are trying. I've had people approach me about fights and stuff, so I'm waiting to really see what sticks out, really what happens. There's a lot of people that say they want to fight me, but when it comes time to actually doing the work, they won't do it. So we're more or less just waiting, training, trying to stay sharp, working on things that we need to work on, and just waiting on that moment, because you never know. In this sport, you can get short notice fight like that. It's super fast. So you always have to stay ready. So always training, always doing my thing that I'm supposed to do. And hopefully things happen. Hopefully I get a fight before this year is over. But if not, I'm just gonna hit the first of the year and just hit the ground running.
I'd love to see you fight before the end of the year, because from now I am going to follow you. I'm going to follow your career. I'm going to keep in contact with you as much as you want to keep in contact, because I just think your story is amazing. With your once after the crash happened, and you were saying like you didn't really want to move, and what it was your family that really pushed you into it? Was it like that pushed you to do something? Because I can only imagine what I can't even imagine what you were going through. So like the support of your family is really what helped you through that time, was it?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, my family is the one that got me pretty much out of bed because I didn't want to leave. Like I was in my room, I had no lights. Like I blacked out everything. Everything was dark. Curtains were closed the entire time. I didn't come out of my room unless it was time to eat. I didn't come out unless it was dark. You know, it was a dark, dark time. And then that's what it was. I was just pretty much gave up on everything. Because at that time I was 17, it just had your whole life ripped up underneath you. And the doctor's like, you'll never see it again. And you're just like, well, shit. Like, I just cracked. I thought I had built up a good life to where I was going to be playing football. And I always wanted to make it at least to college and then play maybe in NFL or something. And that just, God didn't see it that way. That's the more enlightened part that I'm seeing now, is that God did not want me to play football. He wanted me to inspire others, is what it seems like to me. So I guess this is the path that I am on right now. I have to do what I got to do to give it to people.
And you are inspiring others, I will tell you, because the story that I've told people, I've shared, you were talking to one of my other friends, Emmanuel, I think, on the Prospect podcast. Like you have inspired a lot of people who were messaging me after, like, oh, who's that guy? How'd you find him? I just want to ask you, you're saying in regards you want to play football. Obviously, you can pass the medical and get through the commission for UFC, but what's the problem with football? Is it because it's too dangerous? There's so many concussions. Is it because your peripheral vision, people coming?
Yeah, it's all of that. And it wasn't worth it. It was not worth it. I could play, but at the same time, like you see all these reports about NFL players and collegiate players getting concussions and having CTE. I'm like, I don't want to go through all that. I want to be able to function. I want to be able to hang out, with my grandkids and my kids whenever I'm older. So not that fighting is any better, but getting hit in the head over and over again, that tends to pile up. At least fighting, you can know when to stop. Football is one good hit, that could be it for you. So.
Yeah, because I wouldn't be too familiar with American football, but some of them would be weighing over 300 pounds, wouldn't they? They'd be big dudes getting into, like I've read about the CTE, about the concussions, about everything that happens. And then obviously, if you have one of them hit you, like that could be lights out. And then, like, what do they say? There's an average career of 3 to 4 years for for an NFL player. Is that what the average is? Something like that?
Something like that. It's not long. It's not long at all. Especially I guess it depends on the position that you play. So that's what you're gonna see. Like certain players don't make it. They peak for like good 2-3 years, and then their fourth year they tend to slow down, and then they have to like revamp themselves. So it's one of those things. Depends on the position.
Okay. And who would be? Do you still watch football? Do you still enjoy watching football?
Not so much this year. Like I'm tired of it. It sometimes it's good to watch, but other times it's like it's very like I don't know. It's boring now. It's just very boring.
Why is that?
I just I used to watch football a lot and I used to get into it, but now it's like it's almost come like basketball. It's like who can join the super teams and who's going to get the ring and blah blah blah. It's not about like being competitive anymore. It's about buying the right people and it's about who you know. And with Tom Brady being around, and Tom Brady just decides to go to Tampa. Now everybody wants to go to Tampa, and it's just like yeah. And then other teams players are getting suspended because they're celebrating. Or because, they said something out the way and referees don't know what they're doing half the time. It's just like a whole mess show. So I'm like, I'll just pass out this. I'm done.
Yeah.
Man.
Excuse me. Kind of relating to what you and David were just discussing there about the fighting. One question I wanted to ask you is, you're basically on a winning streak now, and with regards to your mixed martial arts record, which of the big names in mixed martial arts in terms of promoters, like UFC, PFL, One Championship, Bellator, which one of those would you like to be signed to? I mean, I assume the obvious one you'd say will be the UFC will be your first choice, but I mean, if they were to turn around and say no, I mean, which other name would you still be keen on joining or signing up with?
Oh, funny you say that because I would not go to UFC. I would not go.
Really?
I would
You're
not
joking?
go. No, I just
Wow.
talked to one of my teammates about that this morning, and I was like, I wouldn't go. And I have been making tweets about that. Like, I wouldn't go. It'd be
Extraordinary.
nice to it'd be nice to get that exposure, and it'd be nice to get that. But at the same time, it's like you never know whenever they want you and they want to release you. You never know. So, and like they have like 700 to 800 people on their roster, and that's a lot of people. And if you are not one of
Yeah.
those standout peoples and like, hey, I'm selling tickets, hey, I'm putting people in seats, they're not gonna pay attention to you.
Mm.
And then they only need
Oh,
people because they need to buff up that roster just in case somebody falls through. So I would, if they say, hey, we gonna sign you, I would go. But it ain't gonna be my first choice. My first choice would be Bellator.
mm. Well, okay.
Because huh?
No, okay. I was gonna say, um, I know the reason why, but let me ask you, why would you prefer Bellator over the UFC if you were given the choice?
Because I experienced like firsthand how well they treat their people.
Okay.
One of my teammates, he was about to make his Bellator debut. We went out there to Connecticut, and they took super good care of us, like really good care. And was, I don't know anything about the UFC, but just far as like Bellator, and I've heard people who are in the UFC, they tell me about it, and I'm like, but Bellator is cool, and also like the competitive, the competition side of them. Like everybody from top to bottom in the 35 division is competitive. They want to fight. It's not those guys fighting just to keep their spot on the roster. It's more like I'm the best. I'm gonna show you I'm the best, and I'm gonna beat the best. That's what I like. That's what I want for out of my career. Because at the end of the day, I want to be able to tell everybody like I beat the best or I fought the best, and I want to be able to leave that legacy behind. So that's what for me. It's what Bellator represents for me.
I've said to David that, and to a few other people, that if you're gonna go to the UFC or gonna go to Bellator, you go to the UFC just to get your name out there as a brand. At the same time, you're going to sacrifice your salary because Dana White is notorious for not paying his fighters properly. And then Bellator, fine, you're not going to get the name power as such, but you're going to get paid what you deserve. Basically, you'll be
Yeah,
paid properly.
yeah. I don't need the notoriety at all. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but I can connect with my fans all day long. I can connect with people through social media and do meetups and whatever I got to do. I don't have to do all that. Like I feel like that's enough. I train myself to fight. I'm training to fight. My coaches train me to fight. My teammates have helped me fight. I'm helping them fight. So we want to see who's the best, and that's it. I mean, just saw last night from the Bellator fights. Those guys, nobody slacked off on the fights. No one took it easy. And there was no easy rounds at all. And that's I like that. I like that. There's no theatrics. You don't need to build up your brand. It's just more like, hey, I'm gonna fight you, and that's no UFC stuff. So it's frustrating to me.
Right.
Yeah, so at the bantamweight, you're in a good division because at the minute, over the years, it always be everyone looked at the heavyweights as fighting slobber knockers. Now it's a lot more technical now, I find, and especially like when I started watching about 5 years ago to now, even now you can see the differences, and the weight classes as you come down have become more exciting. So you're in the right weight class. So in Bellator, is there anyone that you'd like that you would think would be a good matchup for you?
It's quite a few people actually. The more and more I think about it, it was like I would love to mix it up with those guys. So there's uh what's his name? Kevin Lee's brother, Keith Lee. I think that's his name. I'd like to fight him. The dude he just fought, Ornell Lugo. I'd like to fight him. Cass Bell. Um, there's a lot of those guys. There's a lot of new guys in there too that got signed. I end up cross training one time with Hafion Stotts, so eventually that would be a fun fight. But right now I know it'd be a very tough fight for him, for me too. So he's big. He's big. Like I'm a big 35er, but he makes me look small. So, but there's a lot of 35ers out there that would like to fight in Bellator. UFC, maybe two or three, but I'm not really jumping at the bit. But when you look at the overall bantamweight in Bellator, it's awesome. I would like to fight Jalen. What's his name? Jalen. He just fought last night. I forgot his name. Oh well, he has a Jalen Bates. That's his name. He has a brother. I'd like to fight him because he fought one of the guys that I had cross trained with at Fight Ready. He fought Javier Montini, and me and him cross trained before. So I would like to fight. I'd love to fight Jalen, but I gotta get there first.
I'm sure you will if you keep going on this winning. I don't like. It's like Ike said. It's sad to see if when people can fight, but like they don't have the marketability. For me, Kobe Covington is an example of that. Kobe Covington could fight, and the UFC told him they were going to cut him or something like that, and then he's put on this character now. It's bad that when it's not like skill for skill anymore the way it used to be. I also want to ask you: is your weight? You were saying like you're a big 35er. Do you have much to cut? What would you walk around at?
Right now, I'm walking around at 55, 56. So it's just I'd pack on a lot of muscle. I just know that once I get to 160, like I start tapering down because we never want to be over our weight. So our coach is making us, he tells us you have to be within 25 pounds of your walking or within your fight weight. So like I found a happy medium where like I can maintain 55, 56 and I drop weight pretty fast. So that's perfect for me.
So do you find the weight cuts, you don't find them that tough at all then? No, because you see a lot of people missing weight, like Aspen Ladd a couple of weeks ago, and she looked terrible on the scales. And sometimes you think like, how did she get to that place that she was that bad? Should that not have been a commission thing or a UFC thing coming in within a week? You're not supposed to be within a certain weight.
Yeah, it should be. It should be that way, but they're not going to get that way. And the UFC don't care. It's more money for their pockets if the fighter misses weight, or it's more not money for their pockets, more money for the opponent's pocket. So it's unprofessional as hell to miss weight. And granted, she did have some problems where it made it harder for her to cut weight, but at the same time, we just saw it at the Contender Series. Jake Hadley, he missed weight. Regardless, it's like, oh, I only miss weight by a pound. It's like you still miss weight. Like that's still unprofessional. And that's the point where you're on the Contender Series to get your spot. So I feel like you are a professional. You should be able to know your body. You should know what to do, know when to cut, how to cut. So then there's no excuse for anybody because I used to cut to 25 a long time ago. And that was just terrible. But I never missed it. I never missed 25. So everybody has a reason.
Yeah, no, I seen with Jake Hadley, he missed it and then he got signed. And apparently Dana signed him against all his matchmakers' wishes because apparently they didn't want him because he didn't make weight and he was making a bit of noise or he wasn't too nice to the staff or something in the back. So we'll see. I don't know if is it because he's British, maybe because they want to bring that element over because Darren Till is after losing a few, maybe his star power is fading. I don't know. It's the UFC are a strange machine. They don't seem to do things the way they should be done. Whereas you said with Bellator, they do. And what I love about Bellator, I'm not sure if it's the same in America. When they come to Ireland, they stack the card with Irish local fighters. Is it the same when they go to places in America, in different states?
Yeah, they just had a card yesterday in Phoenix. I think it was Phoenix or was it Tucson? It was one of them. It was in Arizona. And they brought like every year Arizona fighter at that time. Like if there's training in Arizona, like I know a bunch of guys from Fight Ready was on that card. So, that's what they do. That's how you got to get your tickets. So you're in their hometown. Like, hey, we have people here. Let's just put your people on the card. Bellator's notorious for bringing in new fighters and building them up. So you grow up within Bellator. So I thought that was pretty cool. So hopefully they bring one to Tennessee.
The point you just made about Bellator, and I say that I am still a novice at being a fight fan and everything, but it's something I've noticed. Bellator do have some good fighters, and they do have, in the past, what I've seen, they have hosted some really, really cool, really good, entertaining fights and events. And what I can't stand, is that they'll host an event, it's really good, but they don't seem to get, and this goes to the fighters, especially because, really, they're the ones really involved in the event. They don't get the recognition afterwards. But the UFC can host a horrible card, and it will be, when you tune in to watch it, it'll be like, good God, the main event was lousy. The co-main event was even worse. Well, the main event probably was even worse. And you find a few fights down on the card, the preliminary card, those fights are probably even better, but probably still not as good. But for some reason, the UFC and Dana White will still get so many people going after his event. So many people tune in, and they'll feel like they wasted their money paying for the pay-per-view.
That's because they try to promote the same old people, and when you get the same old people on the card, nobody wants to watch that. So why would you spend that much money for somebody that you don't really know and you're not pushing because they're not one of your champions or they're not one of your money makers? You won't put people in the seats. You got to promote everybody. So I don't get it.
Yeah, it is annoying, very annoying. David, I was sort of thinking what else I'd like to ask him. David.
Yeah, I kind of lost you there for a second.
No, I was still kind of thinking of other questions I'd like to ask him. Until that the conversation heads in that direction, then I'll kind of bring my question forward.
Okay, Grant. Yeah, as opposed to what you're saying, I think the UFC is more a brand. Would you agree, Dre? That it's more a brand as opposed to when people think of MMA, they think of UFC, and that's obviously because they were the first. I think it's more of a branding thing that brings people to them.
It is. There's that prestige behind it. Then say UFC, you automatically think MMA. You don't think of the other shows. So it's ultimately a brand. That's all it really is. It's either you do UFC, like if you first meet someone and you, like, whenever I was coming up as a fighter and people were like, what do you do? It's like, oh, I do MMA. I was like, oh, you do UFC? I was like, that's not a thing. Like, okay, but it's what it is. It's synonymous with MMA because it was the first one of its kind, and it stood around. So, but there's now more promotions popping up, and sooner or later UFC's gonna get their stuff together because with Bellator creeping up on them and one's creeping up on Bellator, UFC's gonna be like that old granddad that people they know he's there, but at the same time it's like, I'm gonna go over and hang out with such and such. So you gotta watch that stuff. They gotta watch it.
But is there not still a massive gap between Bellator and the UFC? I mean, Bellator are let's say, outside of the US, is still like fairly known, but not as well as the UFC. I mean, you just gave an example that some people say they're doing UFC. That just goes as testament to show that the brand is so well known that people will mistake the promoter's name for the name of the actual sport itself. It's so crazy. So I mean, will Bellator really, can they kind of do the same thing the UFC is doing and still like get away with it? Can they still match the UFC? Will they one day be the number one sports mixed martial arts promoter in the world? Will they take that spot from the UFC? Can you see that happening anytime in the future?
I can see it happening as long as they go the route that UFC is on right now, but they do it better. As opposed to, they keep the same pay grade, they keep everything, keep everybody, happy. If you pay somebody really well, they're gonna stay there. They're gonna be happy. But also at the same time, you got to find your star. That's the only thing that Bellator is missing. That's the only thing that they're missing. Is just that one person or that set people who are like, I am the stars and blah, blah, blah. To be like, oh, these guys are hands down better than, this part. They're better than people at UFC, because I guarantee you, if you brought over some people from Bellator to UFC, they'd beat the people in UFC. And if you bring some people in UFC and bring him to Bellator, they're not going to do so well. They may win, but they're not going to do so well because they're not used to fighting like that. There's some guys who are scrappy, but there's some guys who fight just to keep that paycheck rolling. Bellator does both. They fight because they love it, and they also fight because they want that money. So it's the only thing Bellator is missing is just that marketing, and then have that one star power to be like, we can beat you guys. I mean, it's coming. It slowly is coming.
Yeah, we're actually saying you need that 1 star. What I was thinking recently is, I think it was, well, we're going to see how it pans out, but I thought a turning point might be AJ McKee, because he's like their homegrown star. He's gone through there. What's he's 25-0, something like that. Then he bet the champion who's beaten Michael Chandler. So and then I thought, like, okay, so this is kind of not historic, but this is a move in the right direction, because for a while it was like they were taking Chael Sonnen and the older fighters and kind of doing these older fights. And I think this might be a turn point, like you said. If they keep paying them and keep going, hopefully it go that way. But we just have to see how marketable AJ McKee is, because for me, he's definitely top 3 in the UFC. Even though the UFC featherweight they do have some good featherweights, but he could be champion in the UFC. So it's just, I think they need to get behind him. The UFC have a good market machine, and Bellator they need to take people from their marketing and not from their fighters is what they need to do. That's what I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I feel like. I feel like they were trying to use the old UFC people, the familiarity with Chael Sonnen and Lyoto Machida and those guys, which is great. But at the same time, like, there's no wow factor with them anymore. Like Romero was another one. They was like, gassing him up to be like the next, big thing. But Phil Davis has been over there. Phil Davis is a star, and he's an ex-UFC fighter. Corey Anderson was the one who did the same thing. So, I mean, you're right. AJ McKee's another one. If Nemkov beats Corey Anderson, he's another one. So, like, they have people in the right movement. It's just, again, like you said, can they mimic the marketing from UFC and enhance it to where they overpower the UFC? Because that's really all it is. If people find that Bellator is more appeasing to them, they'll win that war. They'll win it. That's just in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too, because I know in Ireland, within the fighting circles, the guys actually here prefer Bellator because of the local fighters and stuff like that. So they prefer to the UFC, but then when it comes to commercial and I don't like saying the word casuals, because for me, everyone was a casual at one stage, and whether you became hardcore or not, I know people who drift in and out, but if it wasn't for people that would be called casuals, there wouldn't be much, because it's the casuals who buy up all the millions of pay-per-views, especially when it comes to Conor McGregor. And no one's ever going to mimic Conor McGregor again for a long time, I don't think.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. James Gallagher, he might be close if he can pull it off. He can do it. He could definitely do it, especially since he trains with him. He could do it. It's just, again, they have to put that grind into it.
Yeah, they actually tried. I actually met James Gallagher. He is as cocky in person as he sees. But no, he was nice, but he's very self-confident. So, but other than, when was your last fight? I actually can't remember. So, like, did COVID hold you up much, like, with shows?
No. My last show was for Ike Mma. It was July 31st. So I got beat. I got caught early. Guy put me away pretty good. So, you got to win some, you got to lose some. So that was my last fight. So hopefully something happened before the end of the year. If not, I feel sorry for the people from come 2022. So.
Oh yeah, no. Hopefully we will see a fight. Like, with every loss, do you pick up something? Do you learn something and binge it? Because I think, like, when people go through the sport like Khabib and they haven't lost, but obviously he was a different machine. I think I know losing is devastating, but I think sometimes you need to get losses to get better. No one like someone said to me before, every black belt was once a white belt. If like, you need to keep trying. Do you take much away from your losses?
I do. Our team, we don't we don't rest on our laurels. You know, we find out what we did wrong. We're thankful for the opportunity, and we just keep pushing on. We build off that momentum for a loss. So, you know, at the team that I'm at, you can never tell that anybody lost a fight because how everybody carries themselves. It's like, dude, you just got beat, you know, like a month ago. Why are you so happy? It's like, I live and I get to train again. Like, things happen. We lose, we get to find things that we're good at. When you start winning a lot, and this happened to a dude over here named Cole Farrell. He won 10 fights, but he was fighting people that were not good at all. And he had built up this like persona, like I am unbeatable, and I was the greatest thing smoking. And then he round up and got knocked out in 40 seconds. So for something
I
like
got
that.
UV.
Yeah. So he got knocked out and he was like, I'm ready to get back. It's like, what do I do wrong? And he's like, I don't know what I'll do no more. He went through that whole spiel. Like, I don't know. I thought, the people that normally who never lost get the whole spiel. Like, I think I'm done and yada, yada, yada. It's like, dude, you just lost a fight. Get over it. Like, keep moving. No one stays undefeated except for your Khabib. But you never know how many times he's lost in the gym. That's different, and he lost a lot in Sambo, but people really don't remember that. People don't know that at all. Before he started doing MMA, he was doing Sambo and he was getting thrashed over there. So he had to lose. And no one just walks through life and just wins at everything. It's not impossible.
Yeah, no, it is a funny one. People need to get that lost, like you said, because it's actually funny because I've actually been talking to Cole actually recently, because I was looking into his story as well. But how's life with you in general? Like after everything, you seem so upbeat and so positive all the time. Like it's actually refreshing to see. Do you get many people that do message you and say that you've inspired them? And
Yeah, I do. I just don't know what to do with it. Like I just say thank you and tell them I appreciate it because I really don't know how to respond to that. Because I never thought that I would be inspiring anybody. I just thought I was just doing my job, fighting, making sure my team is going good. So I never thought that I was inspiring anybody, it's awesome to know that I'm doing that. It gives me more of a confidence and makes me walk through life easier rather than just going through the motions, so to speak. Like for a while there, all I want to do is just please my team and, my wife and kids. But it seems like there's a whole other world that I don't know about that's like knows about me and is inspired by me. So that's a really grateful thing.
no, it is. It's fantastic. Ike, have you any more questions? Because I'm talking a lot.
No,
I don't know if you want to try and interject.
Still a bit nervous at our first guest. But Dre, I myself am surprised I've never heard of you, even though you're not signed to the UFC or to any of the big names within mixed martial arts, because you're a very unique individual for the fact that you're fighting with Sengline. Again, although there are many other, well, let me see, not many, but a few others similar to yourself, like Michael Bisping, but Michael Bisping, by the time he was in the same or similar situation, he was an already established, well-known figure in the sports of mixed martial arts. But your own case is a lot more unique because you had to start from the ground and work your way up with that disability already. So I'm surprised that even if it's not the UFC, one of the other major organizations, with your winning streak, with your really good record, I'm surprised that they haven't picked you up and included you in their roster or any of their weight divisions anyway.
Yeah, that's a thing that baffles me every single day, man. I still don't know. I've done the tweeting, I've done networking, I've done it all. I've done everything besides just like walk up to them and be like, "What are you thinking about? Like, what's wrong?" So there's not much I can do. I don't know what else to do. So I just win fights, but I did that, and they still ain't said anything. So I don't know. I really don't know what to do.
Well, the fact that you're not discouraged by that, for me, that's enough. That I'm very glad that you kept on going.
Yeah, I don't think my team would let me quit. So,
now I'm gonna go into something a bit more controversial, and David, he said that there's certain names that if you mentioned it in so like a public conversation such as this one, it would not be good for an individual like yourself in a country like Ireland. But it's not going to go in that direction. But Dre, I wanted to ask you or get your opinion on the situation with John Jones and the UFC, and then Louis Pena and the UFC. How they've cut Louis Pena just after 2 incidents, whereas John Jones, it's the upteenth time. And what makes it even worse is that the last incident that he was involved in is the same night, the same day that he was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. A few hours later, he's in trouble again. I was saying to David the other day, it's crazy that one person is kicked out. They've even admitted to their bosses they have this problem. The other person hasn't, but you can see they've got issues through all the things they've been involved in. Yet they still, for some reason, the UFC tend to, from what we can see, how it's portrayed to outsiders like myself, it's as if Dana White and his cronies are always looking the other way.
It's power. It's being who John Jones is. John Jones has made his whole career of being that one child that that is giving everything and not punished for it. Like he did wrong. That's what he is. He's that one child that he can never do any wrong. He could murder somebody right in front of him, and it's like, oh well, this guy just he did something. He did something else. He murdered himself. It's one of those things. Now, what I think, and again, this seems kind of weird because Greg Jackson kicked him out of the gym. Winkle John and all those guys kicked him out of the gym. But it's kind of weird that they say temporarily, like he's going to fix it. He's not going to fix it because you guys enabled that behavior for so long, and that he knows all he has to do is shape up for about 6 to 8 months, maybe pay a fine, and then he's back into it. And then next thing you know, he's doing the same thing again. The UFC is not going to let him go because, again, he's a champion. He is one of their peoples. He also helped build their company up. So they're always going to keep him around. They'll always keep him around because people want to see him fight. He is regarded as the greatest of all time, but, he's a terrible human being. Terrible. I think they should cut him. And then if he wants to fight, then no promotion should pick him up until he fixes himself. Like, if you really want to prove that you're great, you have to go through the trials and tribulations. And I don't think he has been told to do that. I think it's just been told that it's okay. We'll get you out of this mess. You just need to shape up for 3 months. Now, it's very unfortunate Luis Pena got cut. But at the same time, he's also been vocal about dealing with like his inner demons and how he needed help. And that's why he's not fighting right now. So, kudos to him. And, I've seen him fight live. He used to fight for Valor Fights too. So I've seen him fight live. So it's very unfortunate both of those things happen to the victims. But at the same time, if you're going to cut one, you have to do the other. It can't be like one way. It can't be a double standard.
Yeah. Why? Oh, sorry.
You're right. And again, John Jones has done what? There's the steroids controversy, the accident he had back in 2015. He had a collision. The other driver was a pregnant woman. She broke her arm. He left the scene. He came back to the scene to pick up some paraphernalia from his car and left again. He's done so many things, and the UFC has always made excuses. And I was saying in my last podcast with David that maybe, he's done everything wrong. The only thing left now that will probably make Dana White and the UFC wake up maybe is that if he is involved in attempted murder or something like that, something that's serious. Yeah. So Karma is watching everything. So I'm sure one day he'll get what he deserves. I mean, not to say that I hate him or anything, but it does seem unfair when you see someone knowingly do wrong and they seem to be getting away with it time and time and time and time again. So I just make that point. Yeah.
Sorry, I just think the dude needs help, man. And I think Luis Pena, especially in this day and age with mental health, and the way people talk about, if I'm in work and I tell them I have problems, my employer then has a duty of care to me. Like, the UFC has untold money. They could have helped Luis Pena and they didn't. Like for me, that's a slap in the face of, especially people are saying it's for men to come out and say it's okay to talk. Like they should have helped them. I think John Jones, he said, like, I'm not going to really judge them. They've done some bad things. Like I'm no one to judge it. I've never done anything to the extent, but I haven't always done good things in my life. So like I just think the two dudes need help, and I think they cut the one that's going to have the less money to help himself, which could lead to bigger problems.
Yeah.
Mm.
So you think about it. You made your whole life. Your whole life was about making it to UFC. Everything, all the money and all the sacrifice you had to make. And then you finally get there and you finally make a name for yourself. And the company loves you because you're just another number to them. You're just another, meat sack to them. And then they just like, you're like, hey, I need help. I'm not mentally stable, and I've already had one incident. I need help. Okay, well, we'll see what we can do. Or we'll just brush under, oh, maybe he's just going through the fight camp blues. Does it again. I need help. Dude, help out your people. This is what I was talking about with the whole Bellator. Like, they take care of their people. I guarantee you someone from Bellator was like, hey, I have mental problems. I need help. Blah, blah, blah. Could you help me? Yeah, they'll help you. And they'll do all that. Like, you never heard anything, them bashing Anthony Johnson, whenever he got sick really bad. Bellator was like posting about him, keeping daily updates about it. You never saw that with UFC. Hardly ever saw that with UFC people. That's just baffling to me. Like, you really think I'm just another cow to slaughter. It's pretty much all I am there. In Bellator, you're like, you're a fighter. You are this person. You're important because we see the trials and tribulations you have to go through, as opposed to UFC. It's like, oh, you're just another fighter. We can get another one just like you.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, because at the end of the day, me, you, everyone, we're all just human beings. Whether you're a fighter, and fighters have this shield of like invincibility, but you don't. You're all human at the end of the day. All you have are your ups and downs. And I think Luis Pena more so. I don't really want to get into John Jones, but Luis Pena, I think, was let down by his boss, because if I went to my boss and said, "Look, I'm having mental problems," they'd get me help and they'd probably pay for that. Like, and I'm
Yeah.
not in a big huge job or anything. Like, it's coming more of a common thing here, and with the money they have behind him, and like I said, he trained for that long and he got there, and it could be the pressure of the fight, and it could be other things as well. That's all just come together. I think he's been really let down, and but look, that's that's um that's their own thing at the minute. But like you said, Bellator seemed to take care of everyone. For me, I'd like the Bellator's over here. I can't wait. Actually, Gallagher, as you said, is going to be fighting. I'm surprised Brian Moore isn't on the card.
Uh-huh.
Do you watch? Do you know Brian Moore? He's actually fighting next Friday.
I did. I think I lobbied to fight him.
Yeah.
Like, I think he had an opponent drop out, and I was like, threw my name out there. It's like, I would like to do it, just jokingly, but still, I did it. So it's another way to put my name out there. Like, hey, well, we know you exist. That's all I really want. I just want Scott Coker to be like, hey, Dre, we see you. We see your team over there. We'll grab more of you guys in a minute. That's all I want. It's really all I want.
I think you will get that one day. But do you think they see you, but they just don't acknowledge that they see you until they're ready to take you? Do you think that's a factor? Do you think that they
Yeah.
could be? That's probably the worst thing, knowing that they could be watching, or thinking, are they watching? Are they not watching?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's the worst thing. Or they're just trying to figure out who to put me with. So, I don't know. It could be a lot of things. It could be a lot of things. It could just be the whole like licensing, ordeal with the whole eye thing.